everyone, and welcome. I'm Barbara Tien with Project Kin, and I'm delighted to welcome you today to Emma Explores. This is a fabulous series that we've run now for just over a year with the remarkable Emma Cox from Journeys into Genealogy and a professional genealogist in the UK. And she walks us through some of the fascinating stories she's discovered in her own family tree. So, with that, I'm going to step away and turn it over to you, Emma. Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. I'll just share my screen. Give me one moment. Here we go. So today I'm going to be talking about the Mosley family. For anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Emma Cox. I'm a family historian and genealogist. I live in Kent in England, and I help people find out about their ancestors, put together family trees, charts, investigate DNA, find living relatives, edit and rewrite books, and take people or help people organise their own tours of places their ancestors lived and worked. I've also got the podcast, Journeys into Genealogy, that Barbara mentioned there as well. And there's over 115 episodes on there. So today, with the Mosley family, we're going to be talking about various different things. We're going to be going down lots of different lines within it. And we're going to be talking about British royalty, Formula One, Charles Darwin, English merchants, and some other things as well. So the Mosley family actually goes back a really long way. I've managed to trace back to the late 1400s, but I don't want to go quite that far back for this talk today. I'm going to start with Sir John Parker Mosley, who was the first Baronet Mosley in 1732. He was born and he lived until 1798. Now, he was the first of the third creation of the Mosley baronetcy. I don't know if anybody's familiar with this, but basically, if a line dies out and someone is a baronet or some sort of titled person, then basically it sort of goes into abeyance. It sits there, it sort of expires in some way, but it can actually then be reanimated, brought back to life again. So in this case, this has actually happened twice. So he is the third creation of the Mosley family, though it might go to a cousin or it might go to somebody more distant. It just depends what's happened. Someone might have a different name and actually they have a descendancy of that line and then they become it. So he has got his own Wikipedia page. I'll just show you him just a moment. And he was the first baronet of a place called Ancoats, and that was in Manchester. So if anybody is familiar with Manchester, Ancoats is actually part of Manchester now. It wasn't at the time. So Ancoats Hall, this is a picture of what it looked like in 1825. So you can see it was a really big house. It looks more sort of Tudor in style in that instance there. And he was born to a gentleman called Nicholas Mosley and his wife Elizabeth Parker. And unfortunately, his father died when he was young. I think he was under 5 years old. And he was adopted by his second cousin, who was also his godfather, Sir Oswald Mosley, who was a second baronet of a place called Rolleston. And he worked as a Sir John Parker Mosley, he started off as a hatter and he managed a profitable business in Manchester. And he lived at this place called Rolleston Hall. This is part of what he inherited from his godfather. And this is quite a smart looking place again, so I managed to find a nice picture of it. And also, there is a locomotive, a train, which is named after Rolleston Hall, which is quite an unusual thing to come across. A Great Western Railway train, and this is what it looks like. Something like this. So the Rolleston Hall Railway. So John Parker Mosley married a lady called Elizabeth Bailey. She was Baroness Withington. She was an heir to her father, so she inherited his title in 1760 in Manchester, and they went on to have 7 children. Oswald was born in 1761, followed by Anne 2 years later. Then my ancestor, so he was Reverend John Peploe Mosley, my 5 times great-grandfather, and he was named after his maternal great-grandfather, Samuel Peploe Mosley, who was Bishop of Chester. They carried on. They had an Ashton and an Elizabeth and a Frances Mary. She's important, remember her, and a Penelope. So it was a relatively large family for the time, not too big. And this is what Frances Mary Parker Mosley looked like. I found this lovely photograph of her, or Yes, it is a photograph. No, it's a painting. It must be a painting in those days. And I thought she looks like quite a kind person in that photograph. I like her face and the way she's sitting and everything. And they went on to have 15 children. So that is actually quite a lot. So on the back of this photograph, I've actually got this photograph. I inherited a load of things from this family line and various other things. And this is what was written on the back. So it says, Miss Mosley of Rolleston Hall, Staffordshire, married Mr. Smith of Smith Payne and Smith's Bank. So that was quite a large private bank in London. And it says she was the mother of the first Lord Carrington. Now, I know that's not correct. That actually goes down a different line. The aunt of Mary Law, who married Mosley. So she's my line, Mary Law, who married Mosley there. So they had their 15 children. So it started with George in 1793, carried on with Oswald, John Henry, Thomas Charles, Frances Mary, Georgiana Elizabeth, Edward Peploe, Arthur, Emily. It sounds like they're running out of names here because they stopped giving them two names. Catherine. Now she married somebody called Edward Wigram. Remember that name? And then there's an Edmund, a Mosley. So they were keeping the surname going. And Sophia Sarah, she married a Wigram. And Alfred, he married a Wigram. So you can see there's quite a lot of intermarriage here between these two families. So 15 children must have been quite a busy time. It was obviously a little bit of an age difference. There's 22 years in this generation between those ones. So the oldest ones would have been quite old by the time the youngest ones were born. And finally, Augusta Mary was born in 1816. So now we're going to go on to Robert Wigram. There's a lovely photograph of him, a painting I discovered. I'm just going to move you out of the way so you can see. And he was born in 1743. Now, he started off from a very poor family. He was in the southwest of England, and I believe he trained as a surgeon. He was an apprentice to begin with. And he came up to London with £200 in 1762. He managed to turn that into £500,000 by 1806. And that is an incredible sum of money for those days. He was a member of Parliament, and there's a nice article about him. I'm just going to go find the Member of Parliament one. Just have to validate it here. If anybody hasn't come across this website, the History of Parliament is really good for any information regarding people who were MPs or connected in some way. And there's a biography here. It says that he was apprenticed to somebody, brought up in Wexford in Ireland. His father was lost when he was 2. And it basically gives his family story there. It talks about him and where he spent his money and how he actually went to go out his career and how he made his fortune. And there's also a second article about him on historic shipping. And this is the one I hadn't come across before I started doing the research into this family. So this is, again, some of this article is repeating the information, but there's more information. It says that he arrived at Dr. Allen's about 9 o'clock and was greeted with the words, "So, young man, you are come to London. It's a place where if you fall down, no one will pick you up." So you actually got little details in here, and it talks about the ships that he invested in and different things here. So there's some really good information. He was High Sheriff of Essex. He was a merchant, and he did very well and entered Parliament. He was part of the East India Company. So obviously that was a very good thing to invest in. So there's lots of information here. And when Barbara shares the slides afterwards, do go and have a look. Some of this makes fascinating reading. He called his 5th son Money. So I've not come across that before as actually a Christian name. So obviously money was fairly important to him. But remember that, it's his 5th son. So how many children do you think he might have had? Bear in mind we had 15 in the last one, and that was quite a lot. 23. Can you imagine a household with 23 children? Must have been pretty noisy. And obviously, if you've got 23 children, the eldest, there must be older ones and younger ones, and some must have probably moved out at certain times and everything. But 23 children. And you imagine the poor women that actually gave birth to quite a few children like that, because they weren't twins, they were individuals. So going back to what we were looking at earlier on with the Smith family, Edward Wigram was his 13th son, and he married Catherine Smith. William Pitt Wigram was his 16th son. It's just amazing to actually say that somebody had 16 sons. He married Sophia Sarah. Then it gets a little bit weirder. Mary Wigram married Alfred Smith, but Mary is the daughter of his 7th son. So the family relationships must have been really complicated between all of those, because there are aunts and nephews and all sorts of things within there, and sister-in-laws and brothers-in-laws. And anyhow, yes, they intermarried a lot. And also 2 sons and a daughter married Arkwright cousins. I don't know if any of you have heard of the spinning jenny in the Industrial Revolution. So they were descendants of Sir Richard Arkwright. And again, they intermarried. Lots of intermarriage here. So this isn't directly my family. The Smiths are, but it goes into the Wigram side of it. But I just thought this was really interesting and not something I've come across before. And I found this wonderful illustration. This is the entire family. And they've kept the first wife in there as well. So the painting you can see on the wall there, that is the first wife with a child that unfortunately died very young. And the person on the far left, he is the eldest son. So he was the first wife. And then there's Robert Wigram himself. And then there's Lady Wigram is 2 along from him. And then the rest are their children, all of them. And Money is the one standing up next to the harp in the middle. And I just thought that's an amazing illustration to see with everybody together. What a household. So we're going back now. We're going to Francis's brother, Oswald. So he was the 2nd son of Francis Mary Parker Mosley, and he married a lady called Henrietta Mildred Hodgson at St. George's in Hanover Square, London. A lot of fancy marriages took place at St. George's. They had 18 children. So can you imagine all these different things here? 15 one generation, 18 another. The family gatherings must have been enormous if they actually had them. And their 8th child, her name was Frances Dora Smith, and she was born in 1832, and she married Charles Bowes-Lyon, who was the 13th Earl of Strathmore in Scotland. And they had Claude George Bowes-Lyon, who was the 14th Earl of Strathmore. He married a lady called Cecilia Nina Cavendish Bentinck. And again, that's a very good family in England. And their daughter was Elizabeth Angela Marguerite Bowes-Lyon. And she was born on the 4th of August, 1900. Any ideas who she might be? It's a little bit of a clue coming up.
She's the Queen Mother, yeah.
She is the Queen Mother. Yeah. Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. Yeah. So she is my 4th cousin 3 times removed. And I think it's quite fun that she has Smith in her ancestry. So Smith being such a common name everywhere. It's the most common name in the UK, and it's part of our royal family. And we continue. So my ancestor, the Reverend John Peploe Mosley, he's my 5 times great-grandfather. He married Sarah Maria Paget in 1790, and they had 6 children. So they had Mary Elizabeth in 1792, and then Peploe, John Edward, Anna Maria, William Bailey, Francis, and there may be others, because if you look at the dates of these, we've got 1792, 93, 95, then there's a gap to 99, then there's a big gap to 1806, 1807. So I think that either there are other children that I haven't discovered, or they might have died young, or something like that. So that's an area that I do want to try and explore and see if I can fill in any of those gaps, because I think there are bound to be gaps in there. So the last person on this one is Frances Mosley. So she's born in 1807, and she married Francis Wedgwood. So we've got Francis and Francis. So can you imagine it in their house? I mean, I don't know whether they would have been called Francis, whether he was Frank. I don't know what they would have said, but Francis and Francis, how do you know which one you're talking to? Francis was the son of Josiah Wedgwood II, and one of 10 children, including Emma. This is a very, very famous pottery dynasty in England, and I think it's managed to wend its way across the Atlantic as well, and a lot of people are aware of this. And there's a really good Wikipedia page. There's a Wedgwood Museum. There's all sorts of different things there. And by the weirdest of coincidences, when I was 40, which is quite a long time ago now, my brother gave me a little clock, and it's actually a little Wedgwood clock. And he had no idea that there was a relationship at this time. So Josiah's sister Susanna married Robert Darwin. And their son was Charles Darwin, and he married his first cousin, Emma Wedgwood. So Frances Mosley was Charles Darwin's sister-in-law. Can you imagine the conversations and things like that in the households? Then probably controversies and different things, and people wouldn't necessarily agreed about everything, especially because she came from quite a religious family with lots of bishops and things there. So his thoughts about the origin of species and things, who knows what people said to each other. Now we're going a little bit more in a different direction here. So Oswald, he is the eldest son of John Parker Mosley, who was the first one. And he married a lady called Elizabeth Tonman. So her surname's important now. They called their son Oswald. He called his son Tonman. Then they called their sons Oswald. And so Oswald and Tonman was repeated down the generations. And this is actually a fairly well-known family, so you can actually find the different people. But this is one of the things where trying to work out who died when and who was married to whom and who was the father of whom, when they've all got the same names, is quite interesting. So we're down at Oswald Mosley, being born in 1896. And he married a lady called Diana Mitford, who was from a very famous family over here as well, in Germany in 1936. And they were famous for being fascists and very controversial. And I'm not going to go into that in too much detail here if you want to find out a little bit more about it, but they are very, very well known, and not for necessarily terribly good reasons. And there's a Wikipedia entry if you want to go and find more. He was my fifth cousin, twice removed. And they went on to have two children. They had two sons, and Max was the second son, and he was born in London in 1940. He had a varied career. He started as a barrister. He also went into the parachute regiment known as the Paras in the British Army, and he was a racing driver. He then became involved in Formula One, and he ended up running it. And there were various scandals involving him, and he then championed privacy laws, because a lot of the things were people's phones were being tapped and all sorts of different things a few years ago. And he died in Monaco in 2009. So I want to go through just some of the things that actually helped me in my own research this time around. Wikipedia. And again, I came across quite an interesting article about Wikipedia. So you do need to be really careful. I heard that some lecturer somewhere had set some students a task to go away and find out about somebody. And so they did. They went away and they went and looked at all sorts of different things. And then they came back with all this information. And it's like, well, where did you find that information? Wikipedia. Well, I created that entry and it's a fake entry. So you've actually got to be really careful and just not take Wikipedia at face value. Just make sure that it's a great tool, but just try and use it alongside other things as well. The peerage is a very good tool as well. Again, that can be, if it's wrong, he will update it. But he's very good on that, about trying to put in there people who are descended from aristocratic families or well-born families. And that will actually give you a lot of living people. So if those people are in your tree, you might not necessarily find them elsewhere. You'll find them on there. I found the Wigram family on archive.org. I'm just going to click on that because I haven't shown you that on there. Wait for it to come up. So this is where someone has actually written out the entire Wigram family here. This is a copy of a book that someone's done, genealogy collection. And in here, this talked about all of the different people. And you can see here, Eli Duodecimus. So that is, if I remember rightly, that's 21? I could be wrong. But this talks about all the different people. And then it gives little mini family trees for the different lines there. So it's always worth checking to see if anybody's done any research on a family line that you're looking into. Again, the History of Parliament online, I do like that as a website. There's lots and lots of information on here, and you can go through and actually look at the individual pieces on here, and it will tell you about different things that are related to it. And you can look anybody up. You can choose different time periods. You can look by names. You can choose all sorts of different things on there. That historic shipping site, that goes to Robert Wigram, but there's a lot of other information on here as well. So you've got steamship families from different places, Plymouth hulks, Plymouth emigration depot, strange old stories. So it's worthwhile having a look on there if you've got anything to do with shipping. And I also looked at a website called Belper Research for the Arkwright family. And this actually brought up a family tree that somebody had posted online. So it literally allowed me to download straight away, and I could go through this and actually work out where the Arkwright people connected into the family line that I was looking at. Any questions?
Very cool, as always, Emma. Just to kick things off and get the rest of you started with questions, one of the things that I found a recommendation from somebody a while back about Wikipedia is, of course, the dangers of trusting everything you're there, but also the resources. I think it's usually called resources. Essentially, it's the bibliography that is referenced on a page can be some of the most useful things, especially now since so many of the books are available online in one form or another, which can be, especially in family history, especially a very useful source of information.
And leading on from that, you can actually create your own Wikipedia pages. You can be an author on there as well. If there's family information that you think is worth sharing, put it up there. And again, use the sources as Barbara suggested.
Yeah, not only that, but you can go in and edit, propose edits to things that are already there that you see to be wrong. And the same is true for the Internet Archive. You referenced archive.org as the Internet Archive. There's a couple of different really, really valuable things that you can do. One is if you do have any of those family history books that you've inherited yourself, to take those, scan them carefully, and upload them to the Internet Archive as a way to back them up and share them with others. Another pathway to that is using the Wayback Machine. So I've made a practice of this myself many years ago. If you have pages, in this case, it was building websites, but you have pages of things that are just coming down, and you know that too bad, bye-bye, but I'm not paying for it. It's got to go. You create an account, and it's practically as easy as entering a URL and hitting a button, and it makes a backup copy of that with a date stamp for where it is. It's a very cool way to go back and find old things that you thought used to be there.
Yeah. It's amazing the tools that are out there that you sort of vaguely know, but you might not necessarily know how to make the most of them.
Yeah. So as you get going into these family lines and stories, how do you stop? I mean, we were talking about rabbit holes earlier. I mean, 23 children.
I didn't go into all the 23 children. I have to say I did stop at that point, but I did spend probably an hour or so looking at different things and finding. I loved that little book that I found, which had the family trees and things in there and all the different lines for the Wigram family. And just thought, okay, that's good. I can do that. But I thought it's not my direct family. I need to stop. Yeah. Yeah.
Marion, you popped off to go get something. Do you have a question? Unmute.
Now you can hear me.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, I'm not English. My family tree goes back to Germany and Switzerland. And I cannot brag about, I don't know if you can see this or not.
There you go. Hold still. Yeah.
You can see it. Okay.
Pitchforks. I
have a relative that put together a large book. It's about, how many pages? I don't know, about 500 pages of my family in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, my Mennonite family. And it starts off in Switzerland, and she has all the families and their pictures. Mostly, there were many farmers until the last generation when they became professional people. But I can trace my family back to Ulrich Longenecker, who migrated to the United States in 1733. And the reason he came to Pennsylvania is that William Penn generously donated land to these Swiss farmers because he knew they were very good farmers and they were industrious. So they would cultivate the woods. Pennsylvania means Penn's woods. Cultivate the woods and make it productive. And imagine, of course, they had to get from Switzerland via Germany, and I think they actually shipped off on a good ship named Hope from the Netherlands. They had been persecuted. They were martyrs. So it was just awful. So imagine their joy. And then finally ecstasy when they get to the land, even though they have to cut down trees, cultivate the land. What a gift, So anyway.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is I have a wonderful resource, and there is a Facebook page with not the Longeneckers, but my other side, the Metzler family, and I actually have what I would call primary sources, and I don't have to go to Wikipedia.
For the Bill has just chimed in. Thank you, Bill. I too have Swiss Mennonites in Lancaster
really?
as well. The last name is Kaufman. This is Bill Butcher answering. Yeah. I mean, these are just amazing stories. To your side that has a Facebook page, is it with with documents and so on in the Facebook?
It's called The Descendants of Valentine Metzler. Now that's my mother's side. And they have a Facebook page, and I did a blog post about it some time ago, but I really didn't do a whole lot of research because I was writing my memoir, and
which by the way is fabulous. I've been a fan of yours for a while, and the Mennonites will come back to that connection, but fabulous. What I'm concerned about is I always worry about folks who have deep resources collected of extended family archives on Facebook. This is not a political statement. It's a technical comment. Just be sure that whoever it is that's managing that site has a structured backup archive of that kind of material. Because of the risk, and I'll give you an example that had nothing to do with politics or anything else. A story was told to me by someone who very simply was the only administrator for a site that she maintained. You may remember this, Linda. It was at Ponga. And she was the administrator for a Facebook site that told the story of a small town in, I want to say, Nova Scotia or out in Maine, one of the islands out there, very remote area. And there were very few people, but they had collected and found each other on Facebook, all of these resources in Facebook. And then she, who was the administrator, the technical one relative to everybody else, for her birthday, she innocently posted a picture of herself, buck naked as a baby. Isn't this cute? It's my birthday. Well, that was apparently misunderstood. And she was banned from Facebook for like 3 months or something like that before she was able to get her site back. Fair, that happens. Wrong, shouldn't have happened. The whole site was gone because it had no administrator for that period of time. So always looking at the unexpected backups and redundancies and so on. So I especially worry about such precious resources like that, making sure that people have backups is really all it comes down to. I like what we do here at Substack because of the redundancies, but making sure that and happy to take that offline. That's enough. I'll get off my soapbox.
You can also download your Facebook archive. So it's
Yes.
worthwhile doing it as well.
Yes, that's absolutely true. In this case, what I'm worried about is a page that has, these wonderful collections from lots of different people.
Yeah.
That makes it especially hard to scrape all of the things and make sure they're all backed up and archived. Because this is great stuff. It's like that book you held up. You've got lots of things stuffed in there from different places. I've been thinking about ways to give people clear direction about how to back stuff up like that to the Internet Archive. It was more than 10 years ago that I did a lousy scan of a book my grandmother wrote and uploaded it to the Internet Archive, which has been now used by so many different people. It's amazing to me. It's a great book. I already know about a number of big errors in it, but it's a wonderful roadmap. And that's where so many of these pieces come.
I'd like to know a little more. I'd like to hear a little more from Bill Butcher. I don't see his face, but I still see his name.
Do you have a microphone, Bill? Bill's been on before. Oh, there we are. He doesn't. Yeah. Bill's been on before, does not have a microphone, so he's unable to contact directly. Are you on Substack, Bill? I don't remember myself. Marion, you can drop yes, Marion, go ahead and drop your handle for Substack.
Okay.
And you can connect that way.
Yeah.
And by the way, I also have family in Switzerland, in the Glarus canton, which again, I knew nothing about until I recently discovered all that. See what you started, Emma?
That's what it's all about, though, isn't it? It's starting conversation, it's making connections, it's making you think about different things. And
exactly.
I'm not sure. Am I doing this right? Yeah.
That is.
I know you have to do the at.
No. Yeah, that's right. To make
that's right. Okay, it's different from
that's absolutely
WordPress.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And from that, Bill can tap on that, and then he would have your profile. He would see your page and everything else, and can reply.
That would be great.
Yeah, that's a nice thing about doing that, because then you don't have to share an email address, and that just gets complicated.
Yeah.
Good. There we go. Now, Linda, you have family, as I recall. Was it from the Kent area?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do. Both on the Bradley side.
Uh-huh.
We're both from Kent.
That's something Emma knows a lot about.
She does, but there wasn't much on the Bradley side, was there, Emma?
I don't think so. No, it was a little while ago that I looked into it.
It was mostly the Gur side. You found all those people. Yeah.
Have you done much more research?
Well, I got back to the 16, right? But I don't know much about them, except I found one Gur. I think it was a cousin, or would it be of grandma's, or what? It would be her, whatever, back a couple generations. Ended up, they were Mormons. And this one went from England to Australia and then to Utah in the US. Now, whether there's people there, because there is when the names came up, but I mean, I don't know anybody, and they don't know me, right? So that was interesting. Need to look into that more. But right now I'm working on my mom's side, which was Williams, and they were from Liverpool.
Common name.
Room. ROOM was my grandma's name, but then the other name was Williams. Well, there's millions of Williams.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I haven't found out a lot, other than Grandma Williams' family. There was all these children, but half of them died. and mostly at birth, because I've gone back through that. So that when you were saying about 23 children and they all lived, that is something, isn't it? Yeah.
I don't know how long they will live, but certainly they live to become children, walking, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And quite a few of them seem to be adults. So,
Yeah.
but I think that portrait, or whatever you call it, it looks like it's a pencil drawing. Really, I thought that's amazing. Seeing everyone in there, and actually putting the mother, the first wife, in there as well, with the baby on her lap in the painting in the background.
Yeah. Just marvelous. Well, that one on Grandma Williams' side, the room side, that great grandma or great was born on the Isle of Wight.
Hmm?
Yeah. So interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Queen Victoria had a holiday house there, the Osborne
Did
House.
she? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Wouldn't
How in
that
the
be
world did they get across there? By ferry?
It would have done, yes. There are
Yeah.
still ferries that run now.
Is there? Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. But no, I don't know. My cousin in Vancouver has been there and visited, but I haven't, of course. Yeah.
one of the things that surprised me, Linda, was how, though I may not know any of these cousins, is when you bump into a cousin who is also interested in family history, the
Yeah.
sweet joy of trading photographs and photos of artifacts and things like that.
Names,
You share
relationships.
yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's like a treasure trove of clues. And it can be just a wonderful, wonderful gift.
Yeah, I don't
Definitely.
have a lot of stuff. We haven't, well, she's done that, the Williams side, like the Williams family. Uh, but I haven't done a lot on that side, right? Because that wasn't my side. I mean, that was my mom's side, but my side's more the Bradley side, right?
Yeah.
Which is me or was me. Yeah.
Yeah, it was for me, it was the connection, unexpected connection with a cousin that I could see how much research he'd already done for the family in the United States. But what brought us together was a common story about how the family came to the United States. So that led to Switzerland. And I didn't know anything about how to find my way in Switzerland. It was only the challenge of a very good genealogist that said, okay, we were talking about this earlier, Emma, right? And, where do you stop? Where is the prompt? What is the challenge? Give me a challenge. So I had my challenge of, well, find it. Why did they leave? And that that I had that challenge, I went to what I knew, which was the town of Linthal in Glarus Canton. And boom, I found a site called GlarusFamilyTree.com.
It's amazing what information is out there if you just know to look for it, isn't it? There's all of these gifts waiting to be received. And it's like just a chance conversation, or you go down one rabbit hole and it leads you to another. And there's so much information out there.
We always come back to the metaphor of a rabbit hole. And it is. You go down this rabbit hole, and then there is a door that wasn't there before. And there's a little golden key on a glass table, and you just have to eat something. So you grow and you can reach the key, and then you get down, and now you can't get through the door because you're too big. I was heavily influenced by the Alice in Wonderland as a child. It's true.
Emma, what relatives do you have on the Bowles Lion side there, or the Lion Bull side, or of the Queen Mother?
So I basically can trace back to where we join. So that goes back to Parker Mosley and things like that. But obviously all of her brothers and sisters are relatives, and aunts and uncles and that sort of thing. So there's presumably quite a few. I haven't done any more research on that side, but I did actually pick up her biography, or autobiography it was, which is about 6 inches thick. And I thought, okay, it's got a family tree in there, so I will confirm this via other sources and everything, just to make sure. Because I think one of the times it came up was Roots Tech relatives, I think, a couple of years ago, and working out there, someone had said that they were descended on this line or whatever, and I managed to connect things up together.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. You have some interesting people in your family.
I do. I'm really lucky.
Yeah.
That brings back kind of best practices for preparing for relatives at Roots Tech. You know, I have people that I had these promising conversations with, and then, you know, the follow-up doesn't happen. And figuring out how to make the most of that. You know, when you do find somebody as close as a third or fourth cousin, that's pretty cool.
I think it's pretty cool just finding anybody on there, really, because the thing I like about it is obviously living cousins is fantastic, but it can allow me to go further back, because quite often the place that you join is not actually necessarily somewhere that you've explored on your own
Right.
tree.
Exactly.
And it's like, oh, they've managed to go back that line. Is that right? And then you start going back a couple of generations further and you think, oh, yes, that does work. Or no, it doesn't. And so, yes, there are certain people you're related to, and other ones they've copied, unfortunately, something that was incorrect. And
right.
Yeah, but highly recommend sort of if you're going to do it, make sure that your tree is as full as possible on Family Search. And I'm actually going to be doing an interview with Lucy from Family Search in the next few weeks, so we'll be posting about that. You can do a fan view on Family Search. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that will actually show you the different places that people come from. They have that in different colors, and it'll also show you all the holes and the places that are missing or where it goes to different people. So get that as full as possible so that you've got as many potential connections on there. And then when you find a connection, take screenshots of it, clip the screen so that you can actually see where your potential connections meet up.
Yeah.
And then you've got that for looking at things afterwards.
Yeah.
Those will be my 2 top tips for doing things.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I know my father's side just completely transformed this year since last year's Roots Tech. And now that you mention it, I haven't really gone back and looked at even the screenshots I just, you know, studiously took last year, because, you know, one gets busy.
I know, I'm the same, but I've got them there. They're sitting there for when I do have the time and the interest to actually go into it. When I'm looking at a particular line, I could always go back and say, oh, yes. And I do actually annotate the screenshots that I take. I use something called Snagit, which I did a little post about, and I will put on there it's whatever line and their relationship, so that I know when I'm looking at the images going through them, because I had quite a few, and there must have been 30 or 40 that I took, maybe more than that.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I suspect Bill asks, I guess relatives at Roots Tech is only temporary due to it requiring large digital resources. I always try to add them as contacts to at least preserve the names. That is to say, to add the, you know, relatives that you meet who are at Roots Tech as contacts in your Roots Tech configuration. And yeah, that's a really good idea.
Also Family Search. Yeah,
Yeah.
it saves it in Family Search, doesn't it, for you?
That's right. And you can still chat with those people on Family Search well after the show. The challenge is that many people are not actively using Family Search the way people might use email or Substack even. So they won't see messages for weeks and months at a time. But it's, you know, we're all back there during Roots Tech, so it's worth taking a look there.
And it's opens on the 24th.
Oh, that's right.
Registration opens on the 24th, so that's next week.
Yeah, a week from yesterday. Less than a week away.
And it's just open for a week?
No, that's when it first
from then
opens.
until Roots Tech. That's where you can start to register.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
One of the ladies that I had helping me at the Mormon church, when I said my maiden name was Bradley, she said, I have Bradley in my line. and it is on my Grandpa Bradley's side, but it's on her mom's side. her mom's married a Bradley. Yeah, that was kind of interesting, but it's a few generations back, right? Yeah.
There
That
you
was
go.
kind of, you
Find
know,
a relative
yeah.
of Roots Tech in your local family search center.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, those kinds of connections are what it's all about, to be able to really understand what that connection is.
Yeah.
So,
It's
Marian,
also worthwhile just briefly talk about the famous relatives thing as part of family search, because again, those family lines, they're generally fairly well verified, and you can see where you connect on those.
that's honestly where those are the ones that I doubt my end of it. I don't doubt their end of it, but that's where I have to say,
Yes.
really?
Yeah.
Who claimed that exactly? I was going to say, Marian, do you know what canton in Switzerland your ancestors were from?
Yes, I do, but I can't. I looked at my blog post this morning and now it escapes me.
That's okay. I'll go look in your blog post.
Yeah. We visited the dairy farm that has been in our family for centuries. So about 30 years ago, we went there and the cows were kept underneath, and then they provide warmth
Oh, I
for
remember that post.
people above.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this family, they gave us tea and homemade bread and cheese. The milk was so pure that he didn't have to pasteurize his milk. The dairy didn't require that. From he had awards about good milk, MILCH. I guess that's
Milch,
the
yeah.
Swiss way to
Yeah.
spell. So you have Swiss relatives too.
I do. I do.
What is that your maid? I don't.
Yes, my dad's name, my father's name. It's RIES in the United States, but
Yeah.
in Switzerland, it's RIS.
Oh,
And it's in the canton of Glarus, which is high up in the mountains. And the story that a third cousin found me from a post on Substack, and we chatted, and it turns out we had exactly the same story about why our family came to America.
really?
And so we discovered that his second great grandmother was my great grandfather's big sister, and that my second great grandmother was the widow of was a widow when she brought her entire family and her mother to America in 1853, after her husband was killed, and here's the story, by a rolling ball of hay.
Oh,
So
Wow.
both of us had heard that story of a rolling ball of hay, which, from the perspective of the Midwest United States, which is a big flat prairie, how does hay roll?
Down the hill. Yeah.
Yeah. What hill? What hill? Which brings me to your cows, right? Because and again, once I find, and by the way, I read your article originally before I discovered this story. So I didn't even know about my family connection. And what makes me so interested is trying to sort out, I don't actually have, it must be an amazing story about how this woman with a 2-year-old, she waited 2 years after her husband was killed to make the trek with 7 children. And how did she make that trek? Where did she go exactly? What was the route? There were several routes one takes at the time. And the most common one I've been told about from that article is through Le Havre in France. And I want the whole blow by blow story. It must be amazing, and I don't have that yet. I have to admit, I probably haven't tried very hard. I haven't tried hard enough. It's waiting for me.
Did she have family here or not? In the States or not?
What I now know is there were many people from that particular canton who came to the United States.
Oh.
Who did she know? There's also a thought from my cousin that the eldest daughter, his second great grandmother, came first. Why did she come first? Well, that she came first and then the family followed. which makes some sense. She was older than my grandfather by, 15 or more years. So anyway, it's a cool story. But it's, so many of these stories are like that when you get close. And, why they're told, why they're not told, why they're embellished, why they're not embellished. That to me is half the fun, right? I'm still stuck with 23 children and no twins. I was ready for I kept looking at those dates, waiting for the twin or the triple or something. Oh. And how did you know that Money was the guy standing closest to the harp? I mean, he's the tallest. Did they feed him extra?
It's actually got all the
Swiss
names
milk?
at the bottom. Did you see all the names at the bottom?
It was really small.
Yeah.
Probably that good quality Swiss milk. Oh, and the rolling ball of hay. They grow the hay at the top of the mountains. They bundle it up and they bring it down the mountains. And my 2X great-grandfather was a cooper, the wire parts of barrels.
Yeah.
So I figure he was the kind of person that would have fixed the sledges that they, which are made of wood and metal, to bring that down the mountain. And so maybe he was repairing a sledge, and things happen.
Do you know they do cheese rolling in England?
Yes, I do. And you know the story about Nantucket and rolls of cheese?
Is it similar to what they do in this country? There's a hill somewhere and they all run down the hill with chasing a large ball of cheese.
Oh no, I'm sorry. My Nantucket story is about cheese and Lafayette and France. My bad. But yeah, probably Wisconsin. Do they have hills in Wisconsin? Roll cheese down. Probably. Yeah. Maybe not too big so nobody gets hurt.
Well, people do get hurt. Yeah.
Cheese is even heavier than hay, I would think.
And it's a steep hill.
Yeah. If you're going to bother. More adventures in family stories. Thank you so much, Emma. This has been wonderful. Another little wander down a fur-lined rabbit hole, today's word of the day, and looking for keys and glass tables and little doors, and the Queen Mother, right? So, plus, of course, her connections that made her the Queen Mother, and all of the other bits of top hats and white gloves that put it all together. Good stuff. Thank you. Any tips on next week? Next month?
I haven't decided yet.
Now, you all know
wait and see.
That on the Friday before what we all know as Emma Cox Week, the Friday before is celebrated with a special Substack Live session where Emma whispers to me about what's coming. You won't want to miss that.
There's a few advance treats.
That's right. That's right. Okay, well, thank you so much. I'll be getting the recording out shortly, and always feel free to drop your comments and questions into the notes, and be sure to check out Journeys into Genealogy and Emma's My Family Tree, is it?
Yeah, my Substack.
Your Substack.
Emma, yeah, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I was actually looking for the Substack domain. What's the subdomain?
My Family Tree.
myfamilytree.substack.com. There we go. And there you go. Learning about the Arkwright as the inventor of the spinning jenny. I think that's right.
Yeah.
Learn something new every day. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Barbara.
Thank you.
Emma,
Thank you.
all the others.
Take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.